your ads don't matter, at least when you're starting out. Now, I know this is maybe a pretty blunt statement and a pretty stupid statement in a way for a channel that focuses on performance marketing and Google Ads for e-commerce stores, but let me explain in this video why you might actually be focusing on the wrong thing, and maybe that's also the reason why you're not successful when you are a beginning online store owner. If you already have an existing store that is getting good sales, let's say 5-figure per month, maybe 6-figure per month or beyond, then ads can definitely have a huge impact on your business. But in this video, I want to focus on what you should maybe do instead when you're starting out or when you're just getting like your first sales. So let's stick with me. So before we get started, let's briefly discuss what your ads are actually for. Like, why are you running ads? Well, you are not running ads to sell a product directly, right? Ads are basically like an amplifier. When you have a proof of concept, when something works, when you have an offer that is good, when everything else is working, then you use ads to amplify it, to fuel it, to scale it. But what most people unfortunately do is they go to the advertising part because they are like, impatient, because they cannot wait to make their first sale, because they want to get out there and make sales, that the foundation is missing. So they have like a very bad foundation, a bad store, bad offer, bad everything, but they put a ton of ads on top of it to make their first sales, and then it's usually not working, right? So the ads purpose is only to get more visitors, and ideally, of course, targeted visitors, and even better, pre-qualified visitors to your store, so that you can actually make more sales and scale your store, because this will be very hard to do purely through organic methods like SEO or content marketing or things like that. That's why we are actually using ads. But when this foundation is missing, then your ads will just spend money because you didn't prove anything. You don't know if your offer is right, but you throw money to it, and that's basically a recipe for disaster. So when you're starting out, let's say you have a brand new store, let's say you plan to run a brand new store, let's say you are a store owner with very few sales, what you should focus on instead, how you should probably dedicate your time, is 80% store strategy, products, optimization of all of that, and 20% ads, maybe even like 90-10, right? Like whenever I get approached by absolute beginners, the first question is usually, I got 200 clicks, I made no sale, can you check with my ads what's wrong? And my first reaction is, okay, sure, but I probably have to look at your store instead. I probably have to look at your products, because chances are your ads are okay. Sure, I'm sure that whenever I look at ads, I can improve them. I can always optimize them. I have more experience than most people who message me, of course, naturally. But when they tell me, hey, I got 200 clicks, I got 500 clicks, I got 1,000 clicks, what's wrong with my ads? I'm always like, no, what's wrong with your store? What's wrong with your product? What's wrong with your offer, right? And if you start out, as I said, 80 to 90% should be spent on these things, because only if you have a store that is working, only if you have a product that actually has more potential to sell, your ads will be a very wise investment. Before that, it's a lot of wasted money. So here's what you should be actually focused on instead, in terms of more precise and more actionable steps. First of all, you need some sort of strategy what you're planning to do with your store and your business. Most dropshippers, most small e-commerce business owners out there, they are just like going to AliExpress, Alibaba, whatever, Amazon even, or some other suppliers, and they are trying to find products that sell a lot. And they pick them and they're like, okay, this product made 10,000 sales, let me put it into my store as well, and then it should work. Then they put together a store very quickly, and then they start running ads, right? That's a very bad thing to do, because these days everyone is doing e-commerce, everyone knows how to do e-commerce, everyone has access to the same suppliers as you have, so this basically doesn't work, or it works very rarely. So you actually have to think about, okay, what do I want to do with my store in the first place? Do I want to go into a niche store, which is what I always recommend. I have tons of videos on this channel where I always say this exact thing. But going into a niche store, very smart idea, especially very deep niche store, right? Even a one product store. I'm not a huge fan of one product stores, even though I had multiple myself, and they are pretty cool. They are definitely better than general stores. In my opinion, they're worse than niche stores, but they're in the middle. And if you do a one product store, definitely better than a general store already. So having a strategy of what you actually do, and then also following that. Like, it doesn't make sense if you switch your niche on your product in your store every week because something isn't working, because you run ads that didn't sell. You have to stick to something for at least like 2-3 months, try everything inside, and see if you can actually make it work. That's the first thing. The second, and this is probably where you should spend the most time, is really fine-tuning your store. Here's the funny thing that a lot of people tell me, a lot of people that message me, basically say, hey Marco, my store isn't converting. To be honest, if I was my customer, I wouldn't buy from me either. And I'm like, okay, there you got your answer, right? Like if you say that your store, if you admit that your store is bad, if you admit that your store is low quality, that it looks like scammy, that it looks spammy, then why do you expect your customers to buy from it? Sure, there will always be stupid people who do so, but people are getting smarter when it comes to e-commerce, right? They tend to now better spot when something isn't, right. They tend to better spot when something isn't legit. So if you already say openly that you won't buy from yourself, that's a very, very bad start. So your store needs to look very sort of professional. The store should be indistinguishable from actual traditional e-commerce stores, right? If your store screams like, hey, I'm dropshipping from China everywhere, because it has this typical Shopify layout, one huge column going all the way down the page, very low quality images, very, very bad descriptions that seem like they were copy pasted from Ali. Then you have all these GIFs everywhere, very low quality. This is absolutely terrible. One good way to kind of at least find out if you are going to the right direction, it sounds a little stupid, I know, but one thing that you can do, for example, is if you have a store that is polished, that you think, hey, I'm on good track with that, you can send it to 3 people that you know and that you sort of trust, or that don't think what's going on with this guy if you send them a store link suddenly, and you don't tell them necessarily that this is your store. You tell them, hey, I stumbled across the store, I wanted to buy something here, or hey, I wanted to check it out, or whatever, and you ask them if they think it's legit, right? So if you tell them, hey, that's my store, please rate it, of course they might say, hey, it's cool, because they know you, because you're their friend or relative or whatever. But if you tell them, hey, would you mind like checking for me? Do you think it's legit if I order there or something, right? They may give you an answer, and they might be like, I don't know, it looks very sketchy. Or they might say, yeah, sure, why not? It sounds pretty good to me. Of course, this is not like a final test. These are just 3 random people that you know, and maybe it's not worth that much, but at least it tells you what like a typical person, typical consumer might think about it. On a very small scale, not statistically significant, of course, but if those people say seems legit, maybe your chance that it's actually true is a lot higher than if you just think it's cool, or if you think yourself that it's actually not cool, which is even worse. So working on your store should definitely take the majority of your time. I talked about 80-90%, 80-90% doing other stuff, 10% ads. Out of these 80-90%, easily 2/3 of that should be spent on your store, optimizing everything around it. So some more things that you should do in the store are, for example, having very high quality images. If your supplier only has very bad images, then go get another supplier. It doesn't make sense to work with super low quality images, because that's definitely the most important part. It's more important than your description. It's more important than pretty much anything else, right? Have a very, very easy, intuitive navigation. If you have a niche store, you need subcategories, you need very easy navigations, you need to make very clear what each navigation item actually is for and where you land with that. You need a good product description. The product description doesn't have to be endless. Lots of people, they write product descriptions that long. It's all stupid stuff that they don't need for a very simple $10 product. Nobody reads that, nobody cares about that, especially with niches like furniture, jewelry, fashion, accessories, all these things where it's purely visual. Typically, even like those big successful stores have like product descriptions consisting of like 3 sentences or something, because that's all you need. You need 2 or 3, spot on sentences, very, very good images, that's it. Then what you definitely need are reviews. So I know that's easier said than done. If you start out with e-commerce, you don't have reviews yet. The thing is, every e-commerce store, or most e-commerce stores I know, even the ones that are super successful now, doing 8 figures, 9 figures, they started writing some of the reviews themselves. I know it sounds pretty terrible, it sounds pretty, bad, but it's just the way it is. Maybe there are some large businesses that didn't do it, but every large company, every large e-commerce businesses, even billion-dollar businesses, they did some of these reviews in the beginning, because else you have a massive disadvantage. And as soon as you get the ball rolling, of course, you can then switch over to the actual customer reviews, but that's a very important thing, right? So if you actually want to do that, I'm always hesitant when it comes to doing that, but I noticed very quickly that if you don't have any sort of review, you have a massive disadvantage, because all your competitors will be doing it. So you can talk about typical, if you write some reviews for those products, just so that it's not completely empty, you could talk about typical things about this product. You could talk about typical, properties of the product, what it's about, why it was actually helpful for you. Very important that you don't write like 100 5-star reviews. You know, when I see all these dropshippers importing 500 reviews from AliExpress for their products and it's like 500 5-star reviews, nobody believes you, right? You have a very small store with like 100 products and each product has 1,000 reviews and they're all 5 stars. Nobody will read those reviews and nobody will trust these reviews. It's better to have like 2-3 reviews that were written that are also a little bit critical about some parts of the product, but they will make everything way more real. And as soon as you can, you should of course stop this entirely and rely completely on customer reviews. But you need normally something, because else it's really harder to make some actual sales. Then what's very important is don't overuse this whole scarcity, urgency, someone just bought this and that, sale is going on for 2 more minutes. You know, that's not how you drive conversions. If you have a terrible store and then you tell, hey, 2 products left, 10 seconds left, someone bought this, 500 people bought in the last minute, that's not going to help you. That's urgency is used that if someone already is interested in your product and thinks it's a great product, then you can give them this little bit of extra sort of push to actually buy. But if you have a terrible store that screams like, hey, you know, we have really low quality products and they will take 2 months to arrive at your place, nobody will care if you have a sale going on for 2 more minutes, right? So first you have to get all the things right that I just mentioned. Product images, descriptions, navigation, very professional design, maybe even use a paid theme, right? Because they tend to be better in terms of overall appearance and everything. And then you can add a little bit of urgency here and there. Typically what we like to do is not use this highly or highly exaggerated type of urgency, like 2 minutes left or something, but we use something like, hey, free shipping for 18 more hours, or 10% off for 1 more day. That sounds way more believable, right? People think, okay, 1 day, maybe I just actually came to the store at the right time. And this is way more believable than if you say, hey, buy it in 5 seconds or it's gone forever, because they are not stupid. They know that's not the case. So using this very careful sense of urgency that creates actual urgency, but not so much that it sounds completely, dishonest, that's a very good thing to do. And then if you mix this with all the things that I just mentioned, your store will already be much better. So sort of as a recap for the store part, your store has to look good. A lot of people say, hey, appearance doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how your store is designed. It just has to sell. Sure, but typically stores that are designed nicely, that are pleasant to look at, that have been, designed carefully, they also convert better. Because if something looks great, we all automatically think that it's more professional, that it's more, enticing to buy there. And this goes kind of hand in hand. There are always stores that look absolutely terrible and they have a 6-7% conversion rate, sure. But you're definitely more on the safe side if you have a store that is good looking, if you put some effort into this, maybe even got someone on board to do it for you, or buy like a paid theme and twist things around a little bit. Now, when you have done all these things, right, you have a strategy in place, like what you want to do, niche store in this space. Then you have like products for multiple categories, for example, and you carefully select those products, you carefully price those products instead of using those, take the AliExpress price, multiply it by 1.65, and then you sell products for like $38, $52 or something, which sounds super strange. You have like nice, neat pricing for every product, images, descriptions, as I said, everything in place. And then ultimately you go on with the advertising part. And that's where then things, of course, get like interesting, because once you've done all these things, every dollar you spend on advertising will be much more powerful. And suddenly it makes sense to spend $20 a day, $50 a day, $100 a day with some confidence, because you have put all that effort into your store first. And that's where someone like me, at least when it comes to the advertising part, makes a lot of sense to consult or to ask for like, what should I do next with ads? But if you're at like 0 and you have a terrible store, saying like, hey, can you fix my ads, doesn't help anything. When I work with those people, I help them fix the store first, right? We talk about the strategy, we talk about the store layout, about the psychological aspect of it and all these things, but not about the ads. And that's really important to consider, and really important also to follow when you're starting out. But even if you already make good sales, of course, it never hurts to get back to your store, see what you can improve there, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much what I meant when I said that ads don't matter, at least in the beginning. It's the wrong way to start with, I get it. If you're impatient, if you're starting out, you want ads because that's how you think you can get off and up and running and like make sales and get started. But that's not the case. You have to be patient, do all the other stuff first. Then you can run the ads, whether it's Google Ads or Facebook. It's the same for both, even more so for Facebook actually. And yeah, with this being said, I hope that you got some value out of this video. I hope it was an eye-opener to some people. I know that it takes some time to get all the foundation going, but trust me, it will definitely be worth it. So with this being said, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Please let me know below if you already do it that way, or if you are also one of those people, running ads immediately, trying to get something up and running. Would be very interested to hear that. If you enjoyed this, as I said, please subscribe and leave a like. And with this being said, hopefully I will see you in the next video again. Bye-bye.